Hi, I'm Sean Ellis, founder of the Speakers Group and creator of Succeed Speaking. And in this video, I want to share with you 5 questions that your prospective clients are asking when they come to your website or review your materials, watch your video. When they're considering you as a speaker, these are the 5 questions in their mind, and I want to share them with you so you can tailor your message accordingly. And by the way, this would also apply even when you're emailing a prospective client, talking with them on the phone. How you answer these 5 questions will go a long way to determining whether you win the business or whether they go with one of the other many speakers who may be bidding for that same job. So here's the first question they're asking. The first question is, are you relevant to my audience? Are you relevant? And the key here is, are you relevant? The answer to that question they have to come to that conclusion on their own. So you can't just tell them you're relevant. You have to show them how that you're relevant. And as an example, let's say that you are submitting yourself for a banking industry event. And maybe your background, it looks a lot like it's the technology side of your background that's been emphasized. Well, that banking meeting planner or client may not immediately connect the dots to see what is the relevance here. Now, in your mind, you might know exactly, well, here's what I did, here's what I saw, this is exactly why it's relevant to your audience. So you've got to present them with the case so they can come to that conclusion on their own, because they want a speaker who is going to be relevant to their audience, not just a generic message, but something that is relevant to their audience, relevant and meaningful to their audience. And by the way, this is why it's so important that you identify who is your target audience. Who is it you speak to? Who is it you serve? And it can't be everyone, even if it is a broad group, a wide variety of people. That's where it might make sense to have separate pages on your website for the 4 or 5 target audiences or main categories that you serve. So it's very clear that you are the right speaker for this audience. Now, the second question is, are you credible? Are you credible to speak on this topic or to address these issues? Are you credible? Because again, we know there are a lot of speakers out there, depending on what numbers you see. It's over 5,000 or 10,000 at least speakers who are out there bidding for business. So are you credible, or what makes you credible on this topic? Is that you've gotten more results than anyone else in this particular field or this particular area? Maybe you've done more research than anyone else. Maybe you're a published author, even a best-selling author on this topic. Maybe you've been endorsed by some of the leaders in this industry. Whatever it may be, the meeting planner, and I use meeting planner, by the way, in the broadest sense, whoever it is that's planning that meeting, whether it's a VP or an official meeting planner, how are you credible? What qualifies you to address this topic? And by the way, it's not that you don't have to blow things up to make them bigger than they are. Just demonstrate that you are credible. Just don't assume that, well, I know that I'm credible. That meeting planner wants to know, why are you more qualified than someone else to speak on this topic? The third question is your material current? And when I've surveyed meeting planners and asked them, what is it that you want to see? When you're reviewing a speaker, what do you want to see? Well, the number one thing they say is we want to see a video in terms of the materials. But what are they looking for? They say they're looking for current material. So in other words, if you have a blog, they want to see that you've updated your blog or your website. Show that your message, your material is up to date, that it's not just a message you've been delivering for the last 20 years. Because once upon a time, you could succeed as a speaker. You've got this great signature presentation. You go out, and you do the show and you get rave reviews and that's it. But today's clients are more demanding than that. They want to know that your material is current, that it's relevant for today. That it's relevant for today. And by the way, talking about relevance and is it current, you might think that's one and the same, but when I say relevant before, I'm talking is it relevant to the audience. Here we could say isn't relevant to this time, but we'll just say is it current? And show them, again, show them by linking up with news articles that may show, hey, here's the issue, here's what solves it. Oh, and oh, by the way, that's exactly what I talk about. Is your message current for today? The fourth question that any prospective client wants to know, especially in these last few years, is will I get results? Will I get results if I book you? And especially over these last few years when the economy's been pretty rough, to say the least, budgets have been tightened, and at one point, especially after we call it the AIG effect, as you may have heard about, where meetings came under fire, even booking speakers for meetings came under fire. One of the big questions, is there value or worth in booking a speaker? Are we going to get results from this speaker? And now that the economy has improved, still that's the question, is are we going to get results when we book this speaker? And the results, by the way, it could be business results. It all depends on who is booking you, the organization, the division. It depends on what their goals are as to what the results are that they're looking for. If you're speaking to a sales unit, then of course results might be, are we going to see our sales increase over the next 12 months? Are you going to help us get more sales than we would have without booking you? But it could be if it's a meeting planner who just owns this meeting or convention, the number one result they may want is that the audience is satisfied, that you leave the audience happy, that you get high marks on your evaluations. That's the kind of result they're looking for. And by the way, you can also here emphasize, if you offer some kind of follow-up materials, follow-up training or resources, whatever it may be, here's a great place to emphasize that and set yourself apart even further. Not only my keynote will get results and ABC, here's what happens, but we all know you can only do so much in a keynote in 45 to 60 minutes. Even the world's best speaker, you can only do so much. It's the follow-up that really delivers results. So if you've got something you can help them with on that side, then definitely emphasize that. And by the way, if you don't have that in your business already, then I highly recommend and encourage you to develop that. You've already got the material. It's just making it available in a way that somebody can take you home with them or continue to learn from you. Now, the fifth question is simply, how are you different? What makes you unique? Because with all the speakers out there, let's just assume that a client is, when they're doing their evaluation, they're not going to, their short list is going to be made up of speakers who are relevant, who are credible, who are current, and who do get results. Once they do their initial round of evaluations, they're going to narrow it down to speakers who effectively have passed these 4 tests. What's left then is, how are you different? What makes you stand apart from the other speakers? And it's not as superficial as, well, I wear red shoes every time I speak, so that makes me different. What we're really talking about is on a deeper level, and this gets down to your why. As you've probably heard a lot, we talk about businesses. What is your why? Why do you do what you do? What is your mission? What is your purpose? Because that's really in the core of who you are and what your speaking business is all about. And when you figure out and communicate why you do, what your mission is, that is what makes you different. And that is what ultimately moves from, okay, everything is good here. Here's how you're different. And as a prospective client, when I see the speaker that's different in a way that connects with me, then I can say, that's the speaker I need. That's the speaker who gets us, who gets what we're about. So you've really got to make that clear. And that's not something that everybody does. That's not something we did at the speakers group. We've always had a why or a mission, but I haven't always made that clear. And then starting this year, we've really brought that out, that we work with speakers. We are a group of speakers who help people live a better life and build a better business. That is our mission. That's why we do what we do. We don't just have great speakers. We have great speakers who share this mission to help people, to help businesses. Well, why do you do what you do? What makes you different? Don't stop after you demonstrate the answer to all these, but what makes you different? So those are the 5 questions that you need to be answering on your website, in your video, again, in your emails, voicemails, whatever it may be. And coincidentally, how you answer these 5 questions, by the way, these are the same 5 questions people ask when they're thinking, should I buy your book? Should I buy your book or this other person's book? Well, are you relevant? Are you credible? Are you current? Are you going to help me get results? What makes you different? If I connect with that, maybe I'll pick up your book. The same thing when we talk about, should I buy your product or someone else's product? Should I invest in your coaching or someone else's coaching? These are the 5 questions. So when you're thinking about your marketing materials and your messaging, don't just put stuff up there. Try to demonstrate the answers to these questions throughout your materials, and I promise you it'll help you stand apart, help you win a lot more business than the other speakers who haven't taken the time to think through this process.